Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today. Happy Monday. I hope all of you are doing fantastic. You may have already noticed that we're in a completely different setup and it's going to be like this for a while. Over this past weekend, popped a disc in my back. So your boy is officially laid up. All I'm going to be doing is reading manga, playing games, making videos. So I'm going to be cooling it in here. I do apologize for that because I know this microphone kind of sucks. I'm going to see what I can figure out and I'm hoping that this will be a thing of the past relatively shortly, but I just wanted to explain that because this is going to be the case not only for this channel, but also Retro Rebound for the time being. So with that, thank you for your understanding. And today I wanted to continue with something a little lighter. Again, the news isn't really popping off. And I wanted to talk about Bethesda game studios in general and another change I've recognized in this past couple of years, which is way more leaks. Way more leaks than I've ever seen come out of them. And we're going to talk about the status of leaks for Starfield, for the Fallout TV show, for future Bethesda Game Studios products, and also details on Starfield, and sort of round it all up on why this very well may be the case, but also how it's just kind of out of control now, because again, Bethesda has historically been a really shut down company, at least from my observations. But with that, everybody, welcome aboard. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're new here, you're into Bethesda news, you're into discussion videos like these, consider subscribing. With that, let's start off by talking about the latest leak that made me say, I want to talk about, just generally speaking, the entire landscape of leaks for Bethesda. Now, speaking on an industry level, I will say that leaks have turned it up a notch. Like, everything practically leaks. It was a miracle that, for example, the Xbox Bethesda showcase had relatively minimal leaks. Like, there was a lot of surprises within that. So, it's still, I wouldn't say necessarily a bulletproof industry, but it's definitely one that we're starting to see more and more slip through the cracks. And now what we're seeing here today that started this whole conversation is leaks for the Fallout TV show. This is something that I'll admit, whether it be out of thirst for more Fallout content or I may be mildly interested, I don't know. I thought I'll keep my eye on this one. I'll peruse, I'll see what's happening behind the scenes. And so some set photos leaked for the Fallout TV show. And when they did, I was like, again, you know, scoffing. You can't be better than my esteemed video games. I took a look at the set photos and I liked what I saw. So I wanted to talk about them briefly. But again, it got the brain going. And I thought, well, there's been just a lot of Bethesda related leaks lately. Hasn't there been? So starting off with what we're seeing here, the Super Duper Mart. I love this. I mean, this looks wonderful. Apparently they're recording in Staten Island. It was pretty interesting because actually a patron of Last Stand Media used to work at the mall that has now been shut down and is being used for this filming location. So I thought that was a really fascinating connection there, because when they watch the show, they're going to sit there and be like, oh my God, okay, so I know where that is and that is. I just want to have that experience with a media. It's why I'm so excited to maybe one day see Fallout in like New York. That'd be really cool. But anyway, they got the Super Duper Mart here in the Fallout TV show. We see some of the rusted down vehicles. And I got to be honest with y'all, I'm getting some Fallout 3 vibes here. I got to call it as it is. It's really capturing that vibe. And I think it's because maybe I'm a little biased in the sense that Super Duper Mart is one of my favorite locations in the entire universe. And the reason for that is I think it's just one of the best starting areas in Fallout 3. Like, usually my go-to is leave the vault, Springvale, Megaton, and then I hop on over to the Super Duper Mart, because that's where you get a ton of stuff that sets you up for the early part of your adventure, whether it be ammunition, guns, XP. Like, you are just good to go. You're like level 5 once you're leaving there. It's a great time, right? So just seeing the Super Duper Mart in person, I thought this looks oddly good, but so is the way the vehicles look. And I think this is important to note because we're still sort of in that day and age. I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen the online discussion about Resident Evil. I saw what people were saying about the Halo TV show. And I don't want to sound like an elitist, but I'm really not over that hump yet of loving on something so much that I got to even see the TV show for it. Because I feel like video game adaptations to shows and movies have been less favorable. Meanwhile, when you take a look at the opposite, I feel like video games have done these movies quite a bit of justice. I'm looking at you, episode 3 video game. You're quite good. So I think to myself that this is something I'm not really springing into, but aesthetically, I like what I see, and that's important because we already saw in like trailers for the Halo show. There was like a Hummer in the background. People were like, wait, what's going on here? So seeing things true to the universe, it's to be expected. Like, that's the least you could ask for, but I was happy to see it nonetheless. Hopefully with Bethesda Game Studios on site for this, they'll be able to course correct when things are kind of out of sync with the video game and properly translate to a new audience what the feel of a Fallout game is. At least that's my hope. But overall, I liked what I saw in the set photos, and I'm going to continue to monitor it. But the real point of this conversation that goes much broader than, of course, what I wanted to talk about with the leaked photos is just the nature of Bethesda Game Studios leaks. So historically speaking, we're talking about a company that really doesn't have all that many leaks when you think about it. When you roll back the clock, Fallout 4 was pretty locked down tight. You had the initial script leak from Jason Schreier, and a little bit of history on that. That came immediately after the Survivor 2299 shut down. So for a lot of people, it was almost an inconsequential leak because we had just been burned so bad by the community. And I still have the Galaxy Brain theory. Bethesda had to be involved in some way, shape, or form. But then for that total burn to occur and then to follow it up with a leak about the script and the setting, the timing to me was just so poor that I was just like, many people were not buying into it. However, it ended up being true. And then Brian T. Delaney, I have it set up in my memory box, sent me the scripts, and it did confirm exactly that. What Jason Schreier had was real. So we had that leak. There was a, let's just say a gameplay leak from Quakecon over on a certain adult website that occurred, which is one of the most hilarious parts of the entire stretch of Fallout 4's release window. But otherwise, it was pretty locked down tight. 76, a couple of days before the reveal, we saw, again, Jason Schreier with his finger on the pulse say that this was going to be an online survival-based game. And that was actually after the reveal that it was a new Fallout game, but before we saw it at E3. It was in that window specifically. So overall, the leaks in the terms of content have been relatively light for Bethesda Game Studios. However, when you look at what's happened with Starfield, it's been the exact opposite. Before we even saw a lick of Starfield, we saw a batch of screenshots, and now looking at everything we've seen with Starfield's reveal for the gameplay, we can confirm all of those screenshots were real, whether it be, of course, the main character in the spacesuit, the spaceship we saw in some of the concept art leaks, all of the different prefab pieces, which are now being used for the settlement mode, as we had speculated upon. There's just another set of leaks there. And it would go even further than that, because then I talked about it here on the channel a couple of weeks ago about a person crawling through like 4chan and stuff, which normally I don't give any stock to those types of leaks, but they were so consistently right, not only about the big things, but also the smaller things like ladders being in a Bethesda Game Studios game, which I know is hilarious. It's something that we don't really talk about much. It's normally just a transfer into a loading screen, but now it's an animation, and that was confirmed by Todd Howard. And a lot of things we saw within the post, like, say, being able to fly your spaceship up into the atmosphere, not being a thing. This was something that was confirmed by Todd Howard immediately after the gameplay reveal with IGN. And again, these are little things that someone closer to the design team, someone internally, would know about, because most of these Starfield leaks, I put in quotes, really came in the form of, my dad works at Bethesda, and yeah, he actually told me that there will be flying in Starfield and guns. It's like very surface level stuff. These leaks were starting to cut a bit deeper, and I've just found it quite fascinating to see how, of all games, really, you think like with Fallout, it's more Fallout at the end of the day. Like, that's not going to be too locked down tight. You would think that Starfield would be the one that is locked down. But it's not. And to me, that signifies a change that many of you who are going on media blackout and can only consume conversations like these, which are relatively, well, I guess, say, not too focused on the actual content we saw in the terms of like the gameplay reveal and full breakdowns, should be careful, because what's happening here is we're seeing a number of pieces of content leak for Starfield. And what that does set it up for, unfortunately, is as we get very close to the release date, if early copies were to get out into the wild, that would be really unfortunate. But it also means that there are people out there who know a lot about Starfield's story. And of course, while I'm beyond excited to play the game and explore the universe Bethesda's created, nothing broke my heart more than having what I thought was a big part of Fallout 4 spoiled for me. I remember I dove into the comment section one time in the month window leading up to the release of Fallout 4, because there were eventually people just starting to get copies early and post spoilers, specifically in my videos, because I was doing a lot of Fallout 4 coverage. And so I went to, heaven forbid, interact with my community, and I went down there, and it was spoiled for me the opening of the game, right? What happens to your wife or your husband, depending on who you pick at the start of the game. And I thought that was going to be a major moment in the story. Turns out it was the opening. So imagine my relief when reviewing that game, and when your spouse dies, I was like, oh, okay, that was like the first 10 minutes. I'm good now. Everything else is a brand new experience. The relief I had was incredible in that moment. But point being is, Starfield is a world and a universe that, while we have so many clues and hints within these trailers because it's brand new, we have so much mystery surrounding it. And that's one of the fun parts, right? Is discovering a brand new world. And my particular fear with these leaks is eventually it's going to inch into the territory that not everyone's a real big fan of. And yeah, that's story spoilers. Really starting to tell us things about the world that we don't want to know. Even down to the level of, I want Bethesda to be the ones to reveal to us, or rather confirm it's not happening at all, that we will not be able to meet other alien races. There's been a lot of conversations about meeting other intelligent alien races, whether that be like the aliens that you actually fight that are these creatures. That's what a lot of people think Bethesda was talking about. Or if it's something like Mass Effect, where you have the Asari and so on and so forth, because we saw no signs of that within Starfield, and that was something I found mighty surprising. I imagine when Bethesda confirmed there were aliens, we thought we were all on the same page, but it turns out that may not be the case. And I'm hoping that they get the opportunity to confirm that, and it's not some random leaker online. So that's where some of my fear does start to set in, because I feel like gameplay and experiences are either avoidable, or if they do get ruined for you, for the most part, you can kind of have, especially in a game as big as something Bethesda Game Studios makes, dozens of other experiences to sort of make up for it. Obviously, if it ruins what may be one of the best moments of the game, that may not repair the damage. But when it comes to story stuff, I just feel like you can't erase that. You can't. But hopefully, if Starfield truly does have that branching narrative that it seems to have, that this won't be a problem. Anyway, to me, overall, this was just a conversation I wanted to have on the status of Bethesda Game Studios and how the leaks have really spiraled out of control. And hopefully they're going to put a lid on it now, because we don't know how long we're going to be waiting. I've always put it out there that it's very possible we see a second delay into the later part of 2023. Not that I want that to happen, not that I know that's happening. I just think, again, with everything that's transpiring within Xbox Game Studios, you really need to nail this one and kind of have your prove it moments. I feel like this is the biggest game of their generation, just in the terms of a statement, let alone the hype for this release. And I feel like if it has to take until November of next year, for example, then maybe that's what they need to do. But of course, we already talked about that in a previous Starfield video, so I'll leave that there. And I just wanted to share some thoughts on these leaks happening around Bethesda Game Studios. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, what do you think across the Fallout TV show set leaks, as well as what's happening with Starfield, the status of Bethesda leaks? Do you notice the change like I do? Fire away in the comments down below. I'm looking forward to seeing your thoughts. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.